Power Athlete Nation. Thanks for joining us today for episode 81. Today we'll talk with the amazing Angie Sorensen out of Loyola University. She heads the strength and conditioning programs there for track and field, as well as the men's volleyball team, who happened to win the 2014 national title. No big deal. Angie brings a ton of experience to the table as she discusses balancing the dynamic with sport coaches, being effective with her athletes, and her future projects with Eleiko. Angie definitely knows her shit, and it is coming at your ear so hard right now on Power Athlete Radio.
This is Power Athlete Radio. With your hosts, Denny K, Professor Booty, and the Luke Summers. And now, toes forward, hips locked, shoulders set, and retract those scapulars. It's time for some knowledge bombs.
What's up, Power Athlete Nation? Welcome to Power Athlete Radio, episode 81.
80 fun.
80 fun. I'm here with John, Callie, Tex, and Luke. Luke for just a few minutes.
He's in and out, so you may not hear him.
All right, so we're,
I mean, he's at it.
Yeah, we'll throw him some quick love, but yeah, we're here. We're going to rock and roll. We got a great guest. We got a great show lined up. But first, Callie, we've been getting a lot of good feedback on your intro and the commercials that were added on the last episode of Power Athlete Radio.
Yeah, there was some feedback. I deleted all the negative comments. No.
Yeah, we got 2 comments. So
listen, I'm just like a baby bird just spreading her wings. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing, so I'm just trying to add some quality, add some experience to the podcast, and try to improve upon the perfection that already is Power Athlete Radio.
That's great confidence in your part. I feel really enthusiastic about this whole thing.
I think anytime you add, when the first thing a listener hears is a woman's voice, like interest sparks immediately. I think that's like a proven fact.
Yeah, it's very sexual.
I disagree with that. The
Right.
minute I hear a woman's voice, I just mentally turn off.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so,
If it's a hollering voice, John!
Yeah, well, I mean, so as soon as I hear women's voices, I just go into like sleep mode.
I'm not kidding. Like, I have thought about how, and I don't know, maybe Angie, I don't know, maybe she can relate, but I have thought how in this business, being a woman, how maybe my voice is not the best one to appeal to the masses. But and there's something wrong with being a chick doing what we do, but it's just kind of like, I want this show to be as successful as possible, and so maybe the girl's voice will help, maybe it won't. I don't know.
Who knows?
Nobody knows.
We got 2 great positive comments. Like you said, all the negative ones you deleted, got rid of that. So that's a good start.
Batting 1,000 there, Den.
Yeah. Well, I created 2 new Twitter accounts, and that's the purpose that they serve currently. So.
Nice. All right. Well, our guest on today's show is Angela Sorensen. Just a quick history. Her and I met a few years ago at various seminars in like the Chicago area. She actually trained at Eleiko used to have a sports training center in Chicago. I met her there a couple times as well at a couple of seminars. I think, what was it, Angela? It was John North's, and you guys had Schenkel there.
We did. We had both of them there. Schenkel was probably more my favorite of the 2.
Well, he's got the smaller head, that's for sure. I mean, it was hard for John North to get through the door. His head was so big, but
Literally or figuratively?
Figuratively. This guy loves himself.
Yeah, he seems to really like himself.
Who, John North? Yeah.
He's a big internet fighter too. I've seen him fight a lot of people on the internet. So I think
Angie,
pretty tough.
Angie, what was it like working with them? I'm completely hijacking this because I'm interested in like what those 2 dudes were like. And honestly, no one listens to this podcast, so.
Shankel is actually pretty awesome because he's extremely smart and very to the point. Whereas, John North has been around the sport a while and he is a strong individual, but he does like to hear himself talk. But what I liked about Shankel is that he can get into sort of like the psychology behind a lift. Like he can tell just by your demeanor and how you're looking, like whether you're actually going to make the lift that you're about to take. And
Right.
he knows how to approach an individual, in terms of like coaching and cueing and like this is what works for this lifter, but it's not going to work the same for that lifter. And it was kind of cool, just because it was, the very short amount of time that he was with the particular group that we had in there, like he got to the core of you very quick.
Yeah. And he could he seems like the type of person who might be able to understand the nuances of coaching. And yeah, John North is more of like take a machete and hope that works as opposed to a scalpel.
My favorite Donnie Schenkel story was I was walking out of an airport. I can't remember what airport it was, but somewhere we were traveling. As I was leaving the airport, I'm like walking past the security checkpoint, and I look, and there's a big sheet of glass, and I see Donnie Schenkel going through security, and he's just sporting a wife beater.
Yeah, that's his.
And,
that's
yeah,
his
that's
uniform.
like his uniform is the wife beater.
Yeah.
And I just started laughing, and like I think I screamed his name. He like looked around all nervous, just kept walking. But it was definitely like any dude that just straight up rocks a beater all the time. It's class. I mean, that's Philly class right there. I haven't seen that since like when I lived on the East
shirt,
Coast.
it's like a $1.50 shirt.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
But that's it, John? I figured you were going to, like, somehow go into a story about how you hooked up with him and you guys went out and you toured with Seven Dust and nothing like that.
I've never really ever met him. Never had any interaction other than, like, seeing him on the, on the internet. And
Sure.
CrossFitters love to make, like, memes of him. And, like,
he seems to have, like, a cool persona.
Yeah.
And he,
well, then he's also like an older guy, and he's not a spring chicken in any way, and he kind of like fought through a lot of injuries and has gone back and forth. And he's definitely a crowd favorite. So that's the only way I know
strong
him.
type.
And then I saw him
Probably the
rocking a
Morgan
beater.
Freeman voice.
Yeah, he has a very moving sounding voice. He has the voice of an elderly black man.
Yes,
Which is-
very, very much so. After that
Very
seminar that we had in Chicago, we took him to a Brazilian steakhouse, and that was pretty awesome to watch him just sit there and eat for like an hour and a half straight, just meat on meat on meat.
I would pay to watch Johnny Schenkel eat and listen to him eat. What?
Oh.
That's
Well,
completely normal.
we went to an all-you-can-eat Brazilian steakhouse with you, and you ordered vegetables.
I had to get salad.
Yeah.
That was an off day.
Jesus.
I had steak for breakfast. All right, sorry to hijack it. Go ahead, Denny.
Oh, I was going to say, so yeah, we hooked up to those seminars. That was at the Alico Sports Center down in Chicago when they had it there. I had brought a few groups down from our gym just to kind of get Angie's eyes on them to kind of clean up some of their technique. But shoot, Angie, am I missing anything? That's pretty much.
I think I taught you in the USAW level 1 course actually as well. I think you and Jeremy were in there.
Yeah, that was at Loyola, which that's where you work. Maybe I just give the listeners a little background of what you do for a living and.
Yeah, my full-time job is at Loyola University. My technical title is Director of Sports Performance, which is just fancy for saying Assistant Strength and Conditioning Coach. Currently, my teams are men's and women's volleyball and men's and women's track and field. And when I say track and field, I mean I literally have the entire track and field team. So keeps pretty busy there. On the side, I also consult for Alico with their coaching education, which I believe we'll be talking about a little bit later. And then for fun on the side, just in case that's not enough, I do coach some private weightlifters. They pay me for my feedback and my coach's eye, which has gotten better over the decade or so that I've been at this sport called Olympic weightlifting.
Nice. Okay, so the men's volleyball, you've had some success there.
Yeah, last year was actually quite successful for us. We won the Division I National Championship for the first time in school history last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was actually pretty awesome because we also won it on our home court, which is something that not a lot of teams have done. And traditionally, it's like a California team or like an East Coast team that'll win those championships. So it was kind of nice to bring it home to the Midwest on our home court, no less.
Nice.
So like, talk about that a little bit. One of Ingo B, the Power Athlete Nation knows him. He's kind of in a competitive volleyball. I figure when he hears this show, he's going to get all excited. But like, what approach in strength and conditioning do you like to take with like volleyball players? Like a lot of plyos. Is there a lot of weight training, or do you do something totally off the wall?
It's really great to work with the men's volleyball team. They give me a lot of leeway to to do what I want to do, and they have put their trust in me, which I really enjoy. But I actually get them anywhere between 3 and 5 days a week. If it's in season, obviously it's more like 3 or 4 days a week. But I have actually taught the guys how to do some of the Olympic lifts, and usually there is some sort of explosive lift straight off the bat, whether it's a power snatch or a power clean. I don't actually have them do like a split jerk or a power jerk, but we will occasionally do a push press. Especially, as they start ramping up intensity for practices, I don't, in fact, do a lot of plyometrics with them because they're already getting, thousands of reps when they're out there jumping on the floor. I don't really need to add to that load and that volume in the weight room. That's where I can kind of take the opposite approach and help balance them back out. So if they took a lot of jump reps or they did a lot of swinging in practice, a lot of times I will do quite the opposite. I will do a lot more rowing exercises, any sort of movement that is opposite of what they've been doing on the floor. It's not necessarily about, beating them further into the ground doing lifts and exercises that exactly mimic what they do on the floor. For 2 hours in practice, they just got 1,000 or so reps in there. It's my job to balance that back out.
That sounds phenomenal. I mean, Tex or Callie, do you have an opinion on that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's a super smart approach, especially if you can kind of quantify the type of volume that they're getting in practice. Particularly when she said she's working with them in season, you have them a couple times a week, and they're really getting those reps, the plyometric reps, the eccentric movement, like in practice every day. And like she said, I think it's super smart to make sure that there's balance to that to prevent injury. And then I'm sure she's taking that time to maintain their strength and touch on something that probably Tex will maybe want to comment on, which is, any of their limiting factors. That's probably her opportunity there. So I guess I'm curious, I'm sure Tex is as well, in what you found to be some of these guys and gals limiting factors in volleyball and in track and field.
Well, especially in volleyball, it's a side dominant sport, meaning, they're swinging, one-sided. So, there's just repeated there or, very position specific. So you get very dominant in specific movements. So like, I know Denny and I had kind of talked about, trunk rotation, some up in that T-spine. And for like volleyball, you're opening up the same way when you're getting ready to swing. So they get very one-sided dominant and sort of stuck in the opposite side. So, part of the warm-up when they get into the weight room is there to address some of those limitations. So like if they're stuck in that T-spine, if they're stuck in a one-sided rotation, then I'll just have them work, get a few extra reps in the opposite direction.
Right, whatever the antagonistic movement is.
Absolutely, and especially for something like throwing, because the throwers is a group that I've been working with for the last 3.5 years now.
That's cool.
As the throwers, they're spinning and they're releasing heavy weights, or they're releasing a javelin or a disc, and that is all rotation in one direction. And when they have gotten hurt, it's because it's sort of reached that overuse point. So, in talking with the coaches, I'm like, hey, just so you know, I'm going to have them throw a med ball at our wall in the opposite direction to balance that back out. My job isn't necessarily to just hammer them further into the ground. It's to make sure that they are strong, that they are maintaining strength, that we are improving, but more importantly that they're staying as injury-free as possible.
That's some great points. Just to kind of pick your brain a little bit, I'm curious about your assessment approach. So you get freshmen in every year, or you have athletes that go away for the summer. You don't know what they were doing, even though you gave them a program. You don't know. And I've read some studies recently with the FMS, and a lot of them were low scores, but then I found a couple that said if your score is too high on the functional movement screening, then you're also at a risk for injury. So in those terms of those volleyball players or throwers that are one-sided, they may have or appear great mobility, range of motion, but that also is a limiting factor. So I'm curious of your assessment approach for new athletes, freshmen, or them coming back for fall.
Our assessments are, they're constantly evolving, and we have used the FMS in the past. It can be a bit cumbersome to use it, especially when you have 60 or 70 athletes that you need to run through, and you have you're like, oh, hey, season starts in 3 weeks, ready to go. So we've kind of, here at Loyola, we've sort of, cut it down to the bare bones. What is the most essential thing that I need to look for in each of these athletes? So with like volleyball, I want to see that their shoulders are moving well, but the pendulum swings both ways, that it can not move at all or it can move too well, and you'll cause injury at either end of the spectrum. So like if they score too high on that FMS, they can also be prone to injury because that pendulum goes both ways. I haven't been completely sold on, say, like a thoracic rotation assessment, other than, taking them through some of the actual thoracic range of motion exercises to see if they are stuck in one direction or another. Sometimes we'll do it in a seated, on like a bench. Squeeze the bench with your knees, and then you hands behind the head, and you rotate as far as you can one way. Okay, now go the other way. The problem is that sometimes that doesn't just come from the T-spine, that comes from like the thoracolumbar area. So a lot of times, they get that range of motion from somewhere else. So when you're talking like developing, like, for up-and-coming coaches, if you're developing your coach's eye, you got to see where that movement is actually coming from.
Yeah, like we always talk about people being so goal-oriented. I mean, they're going to find a way to meet the range of motion that you're asking them to do.
And that's what's amazing about the human body, is it will do just about anything you teach it to do, whether it's a good movement or a bad movement. It will find the easiest way to do it, and it will do it to its best of its ability.
Does that satisfy you, Tex?
Oh, yeah. That's a great answer.
Is she getting your chili hot?
I'm just soaking it all in.
All right.
Angie, I'm curious kind of how you fell into the world of college strength and conditioning coaching. I've met a lot of women college coaches that are pretty high up. All of them seem to come from an Olympic lifting background versus a sports training background. So I'm curious how you came in all this.
I guess like kind of a little bit more background, quick rundown. I've been a lifelong athlete. I did track and field in college. I did the heptathlon, so I can commiserate with all of my athletes. Did volleyball and basketball and softball, and I briefly tried soccer. So I basically tried anything I could get my hands on. But when I was 16, I started lifting. And then when I got to college, I really started lifting for performance. And then halfway through my sophomore year as a pre-med student, I decided that was a terrible decision, and I switched to exercise science because I liked being in a weight room, and I liked seeing my own performance improve through the weight room and through conditioning, and then it just sort of snowballed from there. I did take a little bit of a detour as a personal trainer because I feel like we've probably all started in that personal training realm at some point in time. Got to pay the bills. I did a little stint as a physical therapy aide as well, which is actually probably highly recommended, because then you see it's not just always about like improving an athlete that's already at baseline and making them better. Sometimes it's about bringing an injured individual from that injury back to baseline and then improving that. So just having been a lifelong athlete and enjoying weightlifting and being a competitive Olympic weightlifter for the last 10 years, just made me want to really get into the collegiate aspect of that. You have those athletes that are kind of specializing in their sport at this point in time, and helping them improve to the utmost of their ability there.
I know that eventually it's going to get to this because Tex he'll probably kind of bring up some of his own experiences too, but do you ever run into any issues with the sport coach, whether it's ideology or implementation or just general conflicts between what you're doing in the weight room, what they're doing on the field, and getting on the same page?
I've been very fortunate here at Loyola to have some great people to work with in terms of sport coaches and actually the support staff and athletic trainers. Most of them have trusted me wholeheartedly and just said, hey, this is what we're looking for. Can you do this in the weight room, or can you do this during conditioning, or can you hit this particular aspect because, these athletes are struggling with it. Occasionally I do hear the word, oh, they need to be in better conditioning. I hear that just far too many times for my liking sometimes. But, as long as you maintain an open dialogue with your coaches, and for me, it's always about over-explaining why I'm doing something so they understand where I'm coming from. And usually if you explain why you're doing it, they'll come on board, or you can at least find that middle ground. But there's definitely coaches that are my way or the highway. This is how it's been done for the last 50 years, so that's how we're going to do it. And we know now with all the research-based stuff that, there are occasionally better ways to do things.
Yeah, I really like your approach to providing value. That's one of the biggest things as a coach that I try to do as well. And it might come across as over-explaining, but I don't really give a shit, because the more knowledge I can provide that person with, the more validity there is to whether it's the programming or the movement or what have you. And, it helps remind me too, am I doing this for the right reasons, or is this the most optimal way to go about it? But yeah, I think providing value is huge, and you're super lucky to have had such a fortunate experience with your sport coaches, because I think maybe it could be a little bit more sports specific as to what type of personalities you run into when you're trying to make changes in a system like Texas experience with, working in Texas with football coaches and, running into some barriers there.
Yeah, I will say that, Georgetown's a pretty relatively small school, so I was able to have an open dialogue with most of the sport coaches, especially the female sport coaches. But then Texas is a whole different ballgame. And quite honestly, if you're winning a national championship as a head coach and you say, hey, our run test is a 2-mile run, the run test is a 2-mile run no matter how much how much understanding you try to put behind it. That's where I came up with the line, investment comes through understanding, but it doesn't always work. So, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we actually had the same similar conversation today. If that's what the coach wants, sometimes you just gotta suck it up and do what the coach wants. It's a give and take, because if you do what they want, they'll give you a little bit of leeway to do what you want. And I try to tell my coaches and my athletes and, maybe any of the recruits that I talk to when they come through, if at the end of 4 years of working with these athletes, if they never set foot in a weight room again, then, that's their choice. But, I want them to at least leave with an education of, how to do something, why they should do it or why they shouldn't do it. It's just another opportunity to educate these athletes outside of, whatever they happen to be majoring in. They could be majoring in finance, but, they'll have an education in the weight room on, proper form, and proper utilization of everything that we're doing in there.
That's a great point, that kind of empathy and building that understanding with your athletes and the value. We're going to come in, we're going to work hard for you, coach, and then they're not going to hate you. They're not just going to go in with their head down, do the work, and then once they graduate, never leave. So building that relationship, building that empathy, you're still grinding them, working hard, but, you don't want to leave them hating you, because then they graduate and they just still hate you.
Right. I mean, if you wanted to develop a good program, you have to have good rapport with your athletes, and if they don't like you, then you're just not going to be building some of the foundational stuff that you need to do to be successful.
Yeah.
So, Ange, just kind of going with that, then, one of the other projects that you're currently getting ready to launch, kind of ties in with that. Your passion in the weight room, and then how your vision of like building a coach's eye. Am I correct to say that?
Yeah,
I mean, if you want to kind of go into that, like what you have in the makings, and it's really interesting. So just elaborate on that.
So my friend Anna Swisher and myself were hired on by Lego Barbell to create a coaching education course. They wanted to break into the U.S. markets. Our course, which will be launched, we'll be putting out the marketing stuff very soon, and it'll be launched in January. But it's Olympic weightlifting for the strength and conditioning coach. As we look at the market as it currently stands, there's very much like Olympic weightlifting, and there's very much strength and conditioning. Obviously, we have the CrossFit side as well, which is sort of a kind of a blend of the two, so to speak, but not necessarily sport specific as a strength and conditioning coach would be. But the whole goal of the course is to educate coaches on how to educate others. It's one thing to teach you how to lift. It's a totally different ballgame to teach you to teach others how to lift. And that's a huge component. They send elementary education teachers, they get sent to school to teach how to teach. Why shouldn't strength and conditioning coaches be the same? So the course that we've created for Aleco isn't just a quick, 2-day weekend seminar. It actually has pre-course material where we go over some of the scientific foundations of, like biomechanics, physiology, the responses to weight training or aerobic training. And then when we actually get into the 2-day course itself, the rest of the course is focused on developing a coach's eye and sort of like a mentorship, and allowing those strength and conditioning professionals to go in and practice coaching other people. And especially with something as technical as an Olympic lift, even some of the breakdowns can still be highly, a power clean from the hang is still very technical, from a biomechanics standpoint. And if you want to develop the most efficient, effective athletes, then you need to develop efficient, effective technique. And that's what we're really hoping to instill in the strength and conditioning professionals that take our course. And then what we've done is taken a little bit more of a unique approach, and we've actually given them post-course study materials. So whether it's at the end of every chapter, there's a suggested reading list, or here's the references, and here's the actual abstracts for those research articles that we were referencing. So it's all research based. It's all it's scientifically backed, especially like the pedagogy of all of it. We don't want it to be just a quick. I'm going to take your money, teach you how to Olympic lift, and we'll see you later. Good luck. We want to actually delve into how to approach educating people, especially at say a collegiate level where you're working with large groups. If you got a football team, you got a lot of guys in there. So knowing how to break down the lifts and effectively teach them to large group is also very much a big focus of this course that we'll be unveiling in the near future.
Yeah, the last thing you would want is if you're going to go in the strength and conditioning field and you be approached by a coach, hey, I want to bring my team in to do some work, can you help me out? The worst thing you want to do is say, you know what, I'm not qualified for that, and kind of pass it to somebody else.
Nobody would ever say that.
Yeah.
Right.
And one of the great things
that would be humility, and most coaches will actually snowball and be like, no. We don't believe in Olympic lifting. Olympic lifting has no carryover to strength and sports. So
just because they were unsure of how.
Well, no, I believe me. I've met a lot of strength coaches who only like to teach hammer strength, because you don't really have to teach hammer strength. They just get in and push. When you start getting into technical lifts, so it's always, people really show their true colors, and you watch coaches fight like to guard their little fiefdoms out of mere fear that like somebody's going to expose them. That, you know, whereas you meet people all the time that are like, you know, that's not really my specialty, but this is what we do. So I mean, but as Tex said, strength coaches, I'm sure you go ask Benny Wiley, can you Olympic lift? Oh yeah, I can Olympic lift. Come on, let's go.
I got a funny story for off air for that.
Okay. Angie, is there a like a minimum requirement type thing to attend the course and to even get in? Because, you know, I know delving into that material it's dense, and providing that kind of homework and prefacing it with getting some base level of knowledge before you go in is going to be key to spitting out successful, you know, attendees on the other end, and we struggle with that ourselves with our seminar.
You know, like as far as like prerequisites, like you don't already have to be a strength coach. You know,
okay, yeah.
It's based. We sort of wrote the entire course with the idea of kind of hitting some of those newer coaches or lower level strength and conditioning coaches. So say, for instance, like a high school history teacher that coaches football, and by default, because he's the football coach, is now their strength and conditioning coach. So he's a history teacher. He didn't just study exercise science, you know, he doesn't know biomechanics. So we wanted to try to keep it as clear and concise, but give them that foundational exercise to make them much more effective. If we can reach some coaches like that you know aren't necessarily strength and conditioning professionals by trade, you know, then that's going to start developing better athletes that are moving out of like the junior high school level and into the collegiate realm that are much more prepared, because we're preparing their coaches that much better. But I mean, it's honestly written for anyone who wants to dig deeper into, you know, why you should use an Olympic lift, or on the opposite side, why you shouldn't use an Olympic lift in your in your training program, because we do in fact go over that in the course. You know, like, this is why you should use it, and here are contraindications to using a power clean from the hang. You know, and everything that we've put with the course, you know, like you can print some of these easy reference sheets of the breakdown of the progressions or the contraindications of, you know, performing a snatch. Does your person have a shoulder injury? Okay, then, you know, you might want to address these issues first. We even touch on like athlete monitoring. So like, you know, maybe you only have them for a month or two, or maybe you're lucky enough to work with these athletes year round. So you need a way to track progress, and not a lot of coaches actually know how to do that.
Yes, I would agree. And yeah, like I said, Tex has a lot of experience at the collegiate level, coming in contact with, I'm sure, Tex, you've worked with guys who play a somewhat significant role in strength conditioning, and they're only there because, you know, their dad somehow got them in, or, you know, they just happen to have the right connections or whatever.
I think a lot of the younger guys have been running into it's 100% connection, but the older guys, I mean, guys that are pretty high up there now, they're lightning in a bottle. So I mean, you can have conversations with them, and anyone can them on strength and conditioning, but those guys they get people going. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic, the up and down of it. But the guys so far, you know, that are master strength and conditioning coaches or way high ups, those guys, they can wow a room, they can wow a team, and they can get anybody going. That's why they're there.
Well, that takes practice too.
I mean, I know we're all guilty of it. We take our little, you know, 2-day certification course, or we pass the CSCS, and we're like, yeah, I know it all. Like, I'm great. I'm so awesome. I'm certified. I can talk everything. But, you know, in the end, it's about continuing to grow as a coach, to actually seeking out further education. You know, if you're not continuing to learn, you're not continuing to grow. And if you're not growing, then you're just dying. So.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a huge component that I'm sure you could agree with is just mere numbers. You have to see athlete after athlete after athlete, and coach person after person to really, you know, outside the scope of knowledge. I mean, trying to gather as much information as possible to have a good breadth of knowledge in coaching, but having the ability to just see like thousands of athletes, I mean, that helps hone the skills tremendously as well.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about how many reps it takes to get good at a particular movement, but I mean, it takes just as many reps as a coach to develop your coach's eye, you know, and you can't learn that in a weekend, so we want to provide as much education on how to develop your coach's eye.
Sure.
And like even in the course we talk about like this is not the be all end all. This is just something to get you started and to really start thinking. You should seek out mentorships and people to shadow. You should read those internet articles, take them with a grain of salt, but find some reputable sources to start following and start listening to and to start learning from, so you can develop your coaching philosophy and your style and find out what works for you.
Yeah, and we that's fantastic that you sort of have that as the underlying theme, it's just a means of development, and it's not the end all be all. And for us, we deem that in our lectures as coach's responsibility and your responsibility to progress. So that's fantastic. That really, that sounds like a super valuable course. And if you have a website for that, we'll be sure to link it up with the show notes. Have you already done one already? Have you guys already started, or have you done like a pilot one?
We have not launched it officially yet. The marketing materials will come out soon, and you'll be able to sign up via the Aleco website. We're actually launching here in Chicago in January. We're going to launch at Northwestern, and this is not just a regional thing, because after that we're looking to go to Auburn and UCLA. I believe Utah State is also in there. So we're looking to take this. This is a national course that we'll present all over the U.S.
Yeah, with the backing of Aleco, that's a great name to kind of be in conjunction with.
Yeah, Aleco packs a lot of weight with their name, pun intended.
Yeah.
That performance place was like, I remember going there and just, sometimes on a podcast, John will talk about like the basement training mentality, like, forging these hardcore warriors. And I remember like when I saw the name like Aleco Sports Performance Area, I figured I was going to walk into like this, something like the Olympic Training Center. And it was the exact opposite. It was, you had Klokov on the wall. So
he's still on the wall down there.
I was going to say, who doesn't have Klokov on the wall?
Yeah.
I think we have Klokov and Schenkel on the wall right now. What better two people could you have on the wall?
Yeah. 4 platforms, a bucket of chalk. You had to go up 3 flights of stairs to get to the bathroom, which was one bathroom about the size of my closet. You're just there to bang weights.
That's great.
Strength and conditioning can be very progressive, but for me, I'm very kind of old school, like the 4 platforms, a plastic bucket with chalk, and just pick up something heavy and put it down. Sometimes getting back to the basics is what you need. It's some of it's human movement. You squat down, you pick it up, you make it look good, and you do it again.
Over and over.
Exactly.
That's where I PR'd my. That's where I hit my 100 kilo snatch, was there. The last time I got that. God damn it. I got to come and see you, Ange.
I know. You need my expert coach's eye.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's like that facility is still there, right? It's just operated under a different name.
Yeah, it is still there. It's operated as River North Strength and Conditioning right now.
Okay.
We used to have some Aleco weights in there, but Aleco sold them. So, but I'm still down there. I kind of feel like I'm an underground weightlifting coach a little bit, because I do. Like I'll go to like that dirty basement gym and watch you sling some weights for an hour and fine tune some of your lifts, and that's what I like. That speaks to my soul, because I grew up in the country. If you're not flinging hay bales or something else awkward, then let's go lift weights.
Nice, excellent. Tex, what do you think of those schools, man? Those are pretty legit, right?
Oh yeah. I got to make my way out. I'll make a trip of it, maybe an LA UCLA thing with the whole Power Athlete crew.
Yeah, that would be great. We'd love to have you there. We'll present. If it's something that you guys would be interested in having in your own facility, let us know, and we'd be happy to present if that's what you're looking for. Or you can come check it out for yourself and see if you like what we do.
Well, Angie, our facility is the opposite of the Lego. We have sterling silver bars, and we have gold-plated squat racks, and so no, it's
well, as long as there aren't any pink dumbbells, we're okay.
Oh my God, no, not unless they're Chelsea's. Chelsea is one of our power athlete, I guess athletes. She plays for the Women's Football League and the LFL. Pink is her favorite color, so anything that I receive, like a T-shirt or something, that's pink, automatically goes to her. And then when John's girls, probably by next year, they'll be tall enough and big enough to fit into it, and then Chelsea will give it to them.
Well, Chelsea actually gave them some of her hand-me-down clothes from last year.
Did she really?
Yeah, she brought my daughter some shorts, and I'm like, did Chelsea just wear these?
Yeah, Chelsea.
My daughters are 3. So
they're
like
27. Yeah. This is small clothes, but yeah, Denny, what else do you want to hit? We need to milk this interview because I'm super stoked at everything that I've heard so far from Angie. This is great.
Well, I mean, if you haven't noticed the way she pronounces Aleko, that's like the technical way, right? That's how the Swedes pronounce it.
Yeah, I've actually been over to Aleko, Sweden, and I've seen them build a barbell, and it's actually pretty amazing to watch them bend that thing in half, and it springs back straight. I mean, 1,500 kilograms of force is a lot of force to bend that thing in half, and it comes back straight. So.
It bends in half.
Hey, is it like the beginning of Conan the Barbarian where they...
Here's my only gripe, and Denny, this is my only gripe with Aleko. We had 3 Aleko bars, and Ben, who one of the guys that trained with us, we were doing rack jerks with some jerk blocks, and of course he somehow spazzed out mid-jerk and dropped the bar, and as he dropped the bar, it like shifted over, and the maybe about 4 or 6 inches off the center section, when it landed, it like hit the corner of the jerk box, and thing like kind of snapped like violently, and then kind of flung off, and I'm like, oh dude, what happened? So we end up unloading, stripping the bar down. I put it in a rack and I roll it, and the bar is bent.
No shit.
I contact Aleko and tell them, hey,
they wouldn't do it.
We bent this bar. You know what they told us? Our bars don't bend. It must be counterfeit.
Or you know what? The other thing I've heard is like if it's warranted, you would have had to have done it like on an Aleko platform.
No, dude. They told us that their bars don't bend, so therefore it must be a counterfeit bar. And I was like, dude, I bought this bar from you, and this is pre-CrossFit. Like now you can actually go find this stuff. I mean, I asked Angie before pre-CrossFit. I had to order Olympic lifting shoes. It took like 6 to 8 weeks. If you wanted an Aleko bar and Aleko training deal, you had to order it from like some weird website that was like a distributor, and the stuff took like months to show up, and then it shows up in a box, and like it was like I think people now through the CrossFit deal are pretty spoiled. Like you can go to like Big Five and buy Olympic lifting shoes. Like,
could it be that the bar is meant to be bent in half due to weight on its ends as opposed to impact at a point of contact?
Oh, we totally fucked it up. Like I'm not saying that it was their fault. I mean, Ben fucked that bar up. That's why I got a little piece of tape, and it actually says Ben's bar, and it's the only one he's.
Oh, I thought that was like a special one that you bought him.
No, it's the one he broke.
Oh.
So I put Ben's bar on there.
I never used it because I thought it was like
and then
super
mine
fancy.
said don't touch, because I was like, don't touch my bar.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
But the thing is, I called them up and was like, yo, I mean, like, if there's a way for me to replace it, like if I could pay, send it back or whatever, and they were like, if it bent, it must be counterfeit.
If you talk to the guy who distributed it, and if this is pre-CrossFit, then this is at least 10 years ago, I'm betting.
Well, I bought the bar 10 years ago. This was probably in 2008. So that's kind of pre-CrossFit. Yeah.
I would say, like, I hope I would contact Aleko directly. They might be able to help you out a little bit. But if you contact...
No, this is who we contacted. We contacted Sweden directly, because the guy gave us the runaround. He wouldn't even get back to us, and I contacted Sweden. And then when I was in Sweden giving a seminar, I was like, I want to go out there and go out to this place and go talk to these people, because I got a receipt. But we've since just given Ben the bar, but that's my only story. Yeah, that's like I threw it down to him. But I still use all their stuff. And
there was foul play, and so you can't in good conscience ask for like.
Yeah, we still have all their bars and plates and everything. I actually have a set of vintage Aleko plates from the '80s that.
So this is funny. When we went to go work on Newport Harbor High School, which is like
no, it wasn't Newport Harbor. Well, we did get a set there.
Yeah.
But we went to go visit my buddy Dr. Tom, and, and in his weight room, he had these like old like 80s Alico plates. And I saw him, and I was like, dude, can we have these? He's like, oh, yeah, these are my first set of plates. So I take them, and I had them all vintage, and somebody decided that they were going to CrossFit with them and broke it in half. And like I came in, and I was like,
that guy should be shot.
That's why CrossFitters can't have nice things.
Same guy that broke the Alico bar.
They sure try, though, Angie.
Same guy that broke the Alico bar broke my Alico plate.
Well, I mean that's why Rogue is so successful, because you break those plates in half and you just go buy more, right?
I know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you spend like $1,500 on a set of plates, I mean, it's like you don't want to. You're like, I'm not going to drop these on concrete. I'm not going to drop them on rubber.
Yeah, I mean, the weights are made to be dropped, but I mean, like the whole John North thing of slamming bars, like if I have a barbell that that costs me $1,000 for just the barbell, I'm gonna treat it like it's my child.
Well, it's attitude based.
Nicer,
right?
probably.
Isn't that his deal? Like attitude at all times.
It is. He is his own person. He has done a bit for the sport. I don't always agree with him. In fact, most of the time I don't agree with him. But
well, he won a gold medal.
Sting, I know his music. I don't listen to it. But...
Exactly.
Did he win a gold medal? Did he compete in the Olympics?
He did.
Did he compete in Worlds? Did he win anything?
I don't know. Listen.
Has he won a local meet?
John, I see what's going on here. Okay.
Oh, this is John's sarcasm.
I see what's going on here.
Did he compete in the CrossFit Games like you did? That's the big one, right? I mean, who's the only athlete on this podcast who competed in the CrossFit Games?
And has played in the NFL for a decade.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. But I really like the actually competing in the CrossFit Games. It's really the highlight of my athletic career. Those NC Championship games and 100 career starts and all that stuff in the NFL, that doesn't really matter as much.
I got that Loyola men's volleyball national championship ring sitting on my desk right now.
I seen that.
I don't have a ring. I played in 3
They gave you a watch
games,
too.
and I have no ring.
Did.
So I'm jealous of. I would always wanted a ring. Like whenever we'd go out with guys that would have like Super Bowl rings or whatever, I was always like,
those dudes don't need rings.
But don't you get an NFC Championship ring?
No, I played in 3 games and we lost. And the year I went to Kansas City was the year that the Eagles won and then lost in the Super Bowl. But I remember when I was out in New England, Lonnie Paxton had like 3 or 5 rings or whatever he had. He'd rolling out with like them all on his fingers, and he's like, "What do you got?" I'm like, "Got an iPhone."
Right.
But no, I mean that's that's awesome to have. Especially the amount of work, and that's really pretty good. I mean, you never hear about Loyola necessarily as a volleyball, national champion winner. I mean, I went to Berkeley, and it was always like UCLA, and those teams were always the big volleyball teams. So that's great. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Men's volleyball, in terms of collegiately speaking, isn't one of the big sports. It's definitely not one of the big money makers, but I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with the guys since I came onto Loyola. Actually, they were my very first team, and they've trusted me the whole way, and I've put my faith in them doing what they need to do. I just give them better athletes, and they make them into phenomenal volleyball players.
Working with a team I don't know if you've ever played volleyball before, but kind of working with any team, whether it's a thrower or a sport that you haven't played before as a strength coach, what was your approach for finding out what the hell they need?
I did actually, in point of fact, play volleyball up until a few years ago. I like to dabble in all of it. Some of it is, talking to the coaches, asking, hey, where do you see your deficiencies? Like, are they not jumping well? Do they just look weak in general? Do they, are they getting gassed after a long rally? Like what do you need there? And a lot of what I do in the weight room with them is actually geared towards preventing injury. So a lot of times after, some of the big lifts, snatch or squat or front squat or, swing or, any of that basic stuff, I'll actually use rehab-based exercises to keep them strong. If they just took 1,000 jump reps over the course of the week, then, I'll do some, hip dominant rehab stuff to keep those knees feeling fresh.
Do you take a count, or do the coaches count necessarily jumps like they would like a pitcher, for example? So like a coach goes in and knows, hey, this is how much we're going to play, and they have an idea of how many jumps, and do they load jumping, or is it kind of just kind of arbitrary, like, hey, we know we're going to practice? Have they ever looked and actually thought, like, hey, this is how many times the athletes are jumping? Just because I worked with a Aussie Rules football team, and when they sent me their matrix for what they were doing in their training, they were running between like 5 and 7 kilometers per practice. And then when they sent me what they had been doing for their strength conditioning program, it was like 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps, light medium reps, and then it was all endurance stuff. And we ended up switching it up, and they ended up doing nothing but like singles, doubles, and triples over 85%, and like really cut their volume. And actually, everybody got stronger and better because they weren't burning the candle at both ends, which is like what you alluded to.
Yeah, the coaches do kind of, I mean, they may not like physically count every rep, but they do know when it's a little bit more of a jump heavy training session, practice for them, especially like going into in season. They do a lot of live play, so the starters are taking a lot of extra reps. So we don't need to do extra reps in here. But the coaches are very good at coming in and saying, hey, Ange, it was a really tough practice. The guys took a lot of swings. They took a lot of jumps. Can we kind of, balance that out in the weight room today? And, I have no problem, balancing that back out. With the track and field team, it's great because it's what I would sort of define as a little bit more of a pure sport, kind of like weightlifting is a little bit of a pure sport. And I actually have eight mesocycles for the track team from their coach that tells me exactly like the objective of every cycle that they're doing, what they're doing on, day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what they would like to see in terms of, weight training during that same cycle. They don't necessarily dictate exactly what I do, but they let me know, like, this is the kind of intensity we're looking for. If they need a little bit of recovery, the coaches will come in and just be like, hey, they're beat down. We achieved our objective of kind of beating them up for 4 weeks. Let's take it easy on them, and we'll do that. So the coaches here definitely keep track of what they're doing, and they let me know exactly what they're doing so I can do my job better, which ultimately makes their job easier because their athletes are fresh and feeling good.
Yeah, communication sounds like that's the integral part.
If just kind of working with a whole team, I mean, the starters, the seniors, the juniors, the guy that get playing time, would you approach the freshmen or the guys at the end of the bench differently in the weight room? Would you get them those jumps that they're missing in games?
Sometimes I do, especially if I get some of the red shirt players. Like the coaches are like, hey, this person's red shirting. They're actually gonna come in for extra work. They'll come in for extra conditioning. We'll get them extra agility. So those guys that aren't seeing the same amount of playing time will actually come in and get those extra reps in. So should a guy or girl go down and they need to jump in and play, they're ready to go. So I just want to make sure that like whatever I do in the weight room makes every last athlete I have game ready. So if the coaches need them, they're there.
You gotta like that, Tex.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing you want is for that athlete to go out there and just shit the bed and not be ready. I mean, obviously getting reps in practice helps too, but I mean, if you can prepare them in the weight room the best you can, you're doing your job then.
Right, and we're pretty fortunate here at Loyola that we've, I hate to overuse the word, culture, but we've created that sport culture where, 90% of our athletes, 95% of our athletes actually like lifting weights and coming in and getting that extra work, almost to the point where we got to chase them out once in a while. But, it helps when you communicate with them, and we have very smart athletes here. So if you explain why you're doing something, even if they don't like it, they'll actually buy into it a little bit more. They might not like power cleaning, because it's, for some people, it's just awkward. It's not a natural movement for them. But if you explain why you're implementing it, then they'll buy in a little bit more, and, they'll work a little harder in the weight room for you, so they are ready for the game.
So then you can sit and watch them power clean and just kind of shake your head, right? I mean, you see those people power clean and you're like, oh man, that's so graceful and beautiful. And then you get the others and you're like, oh my God, you just start tying the noose around your neck.
I do come across that occasionally, but with a little hard work and a little bit of diligence, even those people, can have an improvement, if not in technique, at least in attitude for when they approach the bar, they approach the weight room. But I will admit we do have some fairly strong individuals here, surprisingly so. One of our men's volleyball guys can, hang power clean 275, and it's almost just a muscle clean. I'm quite impressed with that.
Nice. Tex, I remember, God, what we were talking about. Maybe it was in one of your articles or just like through our email communication. You had said that, the greatest athletes on the field might look the shittiest in the weight room or something like that, right? You remember that conversation we had?
Yeah, the strongest guy in the weight room is the strongest guy on the bench. That's what I've seen most of my experience. So it's kind of getting the guys that are the go-hards in the weight room. They'll run through a wall and do whatever, and trying to get them to make a connection from their lifts to the field, and then taking the guys that are just football players or throwers, what have you, and then trying to get them to make that connection from their sport back into the weight room.
Well, if you've ever seen a video of like Usain Bolt or Lolo Jones working out, it is horrible. But those are freaks in nature. They can get away with some, terrible clean and jerk form, and they're still going to be phenomenal. Now, I'm not saying that it couldn't get them injured a little bit, but some people are just going to be naturally gifted on the field, and that hopefully they can benefit from a solid strength and conditioning program, but like you said, some of the strongest guys in the weight room are those nice little bench warmers too.
Yeah, Angie, and then in my experience is like coaches looking from the outside, so they're checking out YouTube and they're like judging these strength and conditioning coaches or athletes based on what that power clean looks like, when like that guy is an amazing football player no matter what. So they're saying like, oh, this strength and conditioning coach is terrible or this program's awful based off those lifts, and it's hard to contain those athletes. It's hard to get them to listen when they've had so much success just doing what they're doing without any form of lifting.
Yeah, when you get those athletes that have been told that they're great their entire life and have never actually had to work to be great, they're sort of big fish, small pond the whole time. When they get to that next level and they just, rather than putting in the work, they just settle for status quo. Like, oh, I'm already great. I don't need to work harder. So sometimes it's hard to battle that mentality. But like it all boils back to communication. But sometimes you can reach those type of athletes, and sometimes they're just going to do what they're going to do, and you got to find that middle ground somehow. But sometimes it just doesn't exist.
All right, so hold on. Yeah, there's my little one. She wants to watch Pingu. John, do you know what Pingu is?
No, I do not. We are been watching Doc McStuffins lately, so we're at the Doc McStuffins.
Oh, the Doc is in. Lucky.
Okay, alrighty.
Yeah. So we asked you to put together like a list of your favorite songs that you like to bang weights to. Some of those you had some interesting songs on there. So what, just to name a few, what came to mind?
Every weight room I've ever stepped into has always had like AC/DC, but I don't think I actually gave you any AC/DC songs. But it's more like, like if I really truly want to lift some heavy weights, it's going to be like System of a Down, like BYOB, or like Stone Temple Pilots, some Pantera, Cemetery Gates, or Walk, some Rob Zombie. I grew up country, so I'll listen to a lot of country, but like if I'm really going to move some weight, like I need something a little bit angry, possibly a little bit scary, so something to get me fired up. I can't do R&B. That's just not happening.
Slipknot.
Slipknot, Metallica. If you put on, Enter Sandman right now, I would be super pumped to pull a heavy clean or, throw my ass under a heavy snatch or something. Anything. Just move something big.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Classics.
Tex, do we want to kind of throw in some Wade's Army?
Sure. So, it's November 12th. That's the big day. And right now we just crossed $65,000 in total raised. And I know you had your competition this weekend, kind of everything benefiting Wade's Army. How did that go?
It went well. We had 15 teams, and I was happy with that. We raised some good money for Wade's Army. I was able to kind of give the athletes at that event just kind of discuss, what neuroblastoma was, what we're up against, gave the background history to Wade DeBruin, talked about how his father's prepping for the workout. I said that we were going to be doing the workout, and there were some other athletes from CrossFit gyms as well, and encouraged them to participate in that, and gave them some literature on, Wade's Army, the website, and Power Athlete HQ's website, just so they can kind of, do their own little research on it, and encourage them to do the same thing on November 12th, just to kind of attack this horrible disease. I mean, I can't help. Every time I think about the story, man, it's like I look at my own little girls and I'm like, man, what a heart wrencher that would be. And in some way, I feel like by taking these steps and working with you guys and kind of just going the extra mile on my own, I feel like I'm helping, and it gives me some gratification in that. And I know we got a lot to do, but still, we did better than last year.
Yeah.
Oh, kicked last year's ass.
So every year builds upon that, and it's that to me is progress.
Oh yeah, people helping people.
Yep, people helping people.
Well, every year we go on, we just get more and more notoriety, and more people learn about it, and then we can kind of find new ways of marketing. I mean, that's been like a really big deal, is how you get the word out, and everybody has something to champion, and I really think that with as many people that are involved in the Power Athlete Feel Strong kind of deal, that are parents and have kids, that this one really hit close to home, and like Danny said, it hits even closer to home when you look at your kids and you realize that these people had, the DeBruins and all these, families have to go through with their children, and that we can help and just keep bringing, information, money, resources, and just getting the word out. I mean, I would love in a couple of years, it'd be cool if this thing was big enough to like something like where like the Susan B. Komen Foundation is able to partner with the NFL and really be able to get the message out, and who knows, maybe Wade's Army will have some legs like that one day.
Yeah. So Ange, I was just like flooding Facebook with all that stuff, but like the Wade's Army, the charity goes to benefit like neuroblastoma, which is pediatric cancer.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to hit like, what is it, John? Like 5-year-old and younger, and
no, it's like kids under 3. I mean, it really affects I think it's the largest cause of death for children under that age, and inflicts all these kids at a fairly young age, and the first time they get it, if they can fight it off and keep it at bay and remission, they got a pretty good chance. But if it comes back that second time, it's like a 97% chance of fatality. So, and these little kids, end up, contracting this deal, and it's a pretty aggressive cancer that forms in the nerve tissues, and there's only like 6 places in the country that have treatments for this. So these parents, end up loading up and driving and put the kid in the hospital and sleeping in the car, and, just like helping their child fight this deal. And, you start hearing these heart-wrenching stories about it. That's when we were like, we got to try to do something, and definitely bring more efforts, more money, and more or not necessarily notoriety, just more message, and just open it up to this deal. So it's been very, very rewarding, and hopefully this thing just continues to grow. So it's been great.
Tex, what's the plan moving forward? I mean, we are less than a week out from the day, so we have next Wednesday, and I'm sure a lot of gyms and teams around the country are getting prepared to take on Wade's WOD. So what's the plan of action moving forward?
Right now, it's just recruit as many gyms as we can to program it. And then our last flashed fundraiser is going to be on Wade's Day, kind of in the last rung for, it's probably going to be 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. East Coast, kind of hit those classes, maybe even later to get the West Coast. I mean, why even stop at 6 hours? Just to kind of motivate people. If you want to participate in this thing, drop 5, 10, 15, whatever it is. If you wear a shirt, most gyms are offering you a free drop-in. So right now it's recruit gyms to program Wade's workout, and just kind of spread Wade's Day the best we can. And I think long term we want to, get out of this whole gym and CrossFit thing and expand beyond just the workout and make Wade's Day, more than just that. Yep.
And if anyone is in Southern California in Orange County and wants to do Wade's WOD with us here at HQ, we're going to be opening the facility up at 11 o'clock for the workout. So if you're around and you want to take that on, otherwise text, where can people go to? I know there's a lot of people who've donated who work out, in their garage gym, but this is a great time to bring people together over such an amazing cause. Where can people find the resource for finding hosts of the workout?
It's going to be wadesarmy.org, just on the blog roll. I'll repost all over Facebook and Twitter for us. And just gyms have opened their doors all over the country, from East Coast, Midwest, Texas, California, Canada, all over. So every list that person's been in contact with me that is programming it and opening their doors, they're up there. Even Will Jones's garage in Ohio, so Troy, Ohio.
Fantastic. Anything else, Jenny?
I think we hit everything on the docket. Ange, do you have any plugs that you want to throw in there?
Off the top of my head, nothing specific that we haven't, already gone over. I mean, I hope to see a few of you guys at the new Aleco Olympic Weightlifting for Strength and Conditioning Coaches course that will be launching this January.
Absolutely. We will definitely, as soon as you get that information, just forward it to one of us or to the email chain, and we'll for sure throw that up. And, we look forward to seeing you there and gaining some knowledge from the seminar. That sounds amazing.
That would be awesome. And if you're in the Midwest region and you're looking for Olympic weightlifting events or clinics, if you check out beastisathletics.com, you can find all things Olympic weightlifting in the Midwest.
Beastess, as in the female version of a beast.
You're darn right.
I like that. All right. Cool. Well, thanks, guys, for everything. And Angie, I can't thank you enough for joining us on the show. Certainly a wealth of knowledge, and just selfishly, it's awesome to see, more females in this business, especially somebody as successful with all the accolades that you have. I'm excited for your progress with the Aleco seminar, and I have no doubt that it's going to yield some great results. So thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for being a fellow estrogen in a world full of men.
All right, guys.
Are you talking to me?
Maybe.
Your hair is deceiving.
I don't know. Your estrogen count isn't that high.
Cool, guys.
Well, thank you so much.
All right, Ange. Thanks. We'll keep in touch.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye.
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 You've just been listening to Power Athlete Radio. For more information on this podcast and to check out our online training resource, please visit www.powerathletehq.com. Did you know something we consume every day was once considered a performance enhancer? Find out what food was banned among athletes of antiquity when we host archaeologist and professor of ancient sports, Dr. Stephen Miller, in the next episode of Power Athlete Radio. Bye!